Jesus said, what you seek, had to check my soul. I was busy, I was active, I was chasing the grind, but deep down I was empty, I was wasting my time. Same habits, same cycles, just a different day. Talking faith, but my life wasn't built that way. He said, come and see. I ain't know what it meant, but I stayed in his presence, now I see what he meant.
What you see.
Welcome back to another conversation with the Mafia. Tonight, we got myself, Chris, joined with Coach Marcus.
Yo, what's up, people?
What are we getting into tonight, Coach?
Yo, Pam, before we jump into this, and I'll let you introduce it, I just want to give into some prayer. I want to welcome everybody back that you went through Easter, right? Before we jump into prayer, I want you guys to think a little bit close on some of the things that happened during Easter, which was the death, the burial, and the resurrection. And at this time of the year, I like to actually talk about this for like just 1 minute real quick. And that would be the death, burial, and resurrection of ourselves, which before we jump into this thing, which is going to kind of line up with it, is that what has to die in you and what has to be resurrected in you. And if we just think about that and we ask ourselves those questions every year or every 3 months, there's some things that will happen. So what I like about this is what my brother Chris went through, and that what we're about ready to jump into is what you seek, you will find. So if everybody would just bow your heads, here we go into prayer. Oh, thank you so much, Creator. Thank you for this time coming back to this particular studio and giving us this word and this message to bring forward to the individuals out there that need it so desperately. And to the ones that feel that they don't need it, I hope that their ear just tunes in a little bit closer to this, Father, so that they begin to question some of the things within themselves and how they can make those changes to be different. That we find accountability and we find self-awareness every time to better ourselves and move in the direction that you have us in for healing. With that, Lord, I pray that this message and everybody out there receive joy, unspeakable joy, and that the stress be lifted off their lives and that they be a blessing one to another. In the mighty name of Yeshua, amen.
Amen. So episode 45, we're going to get into, and he kind of already leaked the title, What You Seek is What You Will Find. And this is a piggyback to a message I'm going to speak on Sunday, but I really felt this was a good conversation because as I was writing this, I was aiming this for the podcast. Oh, but as I was reading and doing some studying on the actual, just the base of it, I was like, oh no, this got to be prime time. But it's a great message, I feel. But I'm not getting too much into the Bible part of the message that I'm going to speak at church. But what I wanted to do is break this down to us, the men's side of this, and what you see is what you're looking for, and that goes for a number of things. Because like if you go out looking for trouble, you're gonna find it.
Fact.
If you go looking into your relationship and only see the negatives, then that's all you're gonna report back with. But with the resurrection and the renewing of our mind and the debt being paid, we need to change our mindset and accept. Because like I said on Good Friday when we were speaking, and me and Marcus had a part where we spoke at church for Good Friday, but bringing that back to respecting that the price has been paid and putting some respect on that, because believe it or not, there's some things that happened, and we could go back to the neighborhood ties, we could go back to the sports ties and all these actor ties, but why can't we go back to the biblical ties that go into it and show that everything that we're trying to hold on to, he's already loose for us. But see, it's funny because we only still see the stuff that we're gripping onto. We're not seeing what's the bigger picture. Because sometimes all we can do is we get so stuck on, no, I got to go back to this job. And this week I was part of that. I'm not going to get into too much of it because it's still kind of fresh going on. But I only saw one part. And I had a bunch of people, commenting stuff off the podcast. My boy E was like, hold on, bro, that ain't what you said on the podcast. Like,
Snap. Yeah. All right.
But see, that's that accountability, right? That's what this is about. Because if you seek what you look for, what you seek, you shall find. And that ties back to the Bible. Because in the Bible, he says, if you seek, you shall receive. If you ask, I'll give it to you. And I'm before you guys get in the emails and stuff.
Yeah, come on, you guys.
Bishop Chris ain't here. Yeah. Brother Chris. But to kick this off, Amos 6:3. You push away every thought of coming disaster, but your actions only bring the day of judgment closer. And to me, that's what when I was getting into this is like, okay, so whatever you train your eyes on and your mind to look for, that's what you're going to find in life. If you look for problems, you'll always find problems. If you look for flaws, that's all you'll see is what's wrong. If you look for negativity, everything feels heavy. This plays out in marriage. You know, you start noticing only what your spouse isn't doing, but how much are they doing? I don't want to say he or she because in marriage, that's a both, you know, goes both ways. But what about work? You only see the stress, not the opportunity. And in daily life, you become frustrated instead of grateful. Reality is nothing changed around you. You just trained your eyes to focus differently.
Fact. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy that you talk about that, man, because we're talking about like, you know, seeking, and what you seek is what you'll find. And a lot of people are like, that doesn't really apply to me, really, because when you went to go seek a new job, you found it, right? When you broke up with whoever you broke up with and you decided to go seek out a new relationship, you found it. You know, same thing goes when you really put your mind to something, you're gonna get it done. Like, oh, I want this car, you're gonna find a way to go get it because you're seeking a way to go get it. So why can't we apply the good things in life like that to our walk with God? The closer I want to walk with God, because here's comes a couple of things with it. As you seek it, when you start seeking truth, truth will show up, and it will show up on what's true that you are missing in yourself. And those are some of the things that we have a hard time taking accountability towards and focusing in on, because it brings conviction. But conviction is there to help us grow. In reality, nothing changed around you. You just trained your focus differently. And I like that, man, because when we start talking about this, we become critical, we withdraw, we expect more, but appreciate less. In reality, our mind has to change, but I like what we're going on this route. But what you're talking about, I think it's going to be, you know, if y'all ain't heard of Piss preach, y'all really need to know.
Hey, you won't hear him preach, but you'll hear him speak. But to get into this further, what I felt, right, is like, so when I started thinking about buying one of those Jeep Gladiators,
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
then all I saw was them. So then I was like, I don't want one now, because it became too common. But the minute I quit talking about it, I didn't recognize it. So like, you know, this is just a little test that, you know, like if all you do is if you're around negative people, then that's all you're going to seek is negativity. If you're around kingdom-minded men, other brothers in men's groups, and you start hearing a positive outlook versus a negative outlook, then guess what happens? It's contagious, right? Because love is contagious.
That's right.
And I'm not talking all this like no Diddy love and all no cap and all, you know. But what I'm talking about is like when you're having a bad time, and like my boy E holding me accountable. See, now he could have just fed into it. Yeah, you're right. This is bad. This is and you know, I would have got all hyped up. But see, my brother, he stepped in and was like, nah, you got to look at it from this angle. And that's being positive, right? That's changing your mindset. That's hearing something. And it just goes back to like, if you're hungry for a steak, you don't go look for Mickey D's. You know what I mean? And I know E's already, when he hears this, he's gonna be like, well, what about Eddie V's? Shut up, man. You know what talking about.
Not everybody can afford Eddie V all the time.
Right. But here's a question I wanted to ask is where in your life have you been focusing on negative? And how has that shaped your attitude or relationships?
Ooh, that's pretty deep. And I'm going to take that personal, because this week, to be honest with you, I mean, like on Monday, it just started. I mean, like, okay, we got through Friday, you know, and I always know, I always have this sense, and I'm thinking about it all the time. Every time I get up there to give a word to God, here comes the enemy attacking me, right? Like, I just see it all the time. And it also comes to a point where I've seen it happen, like on a pattern and a cycle, that I was like counting that it's coming, right? And I was focused in on so much of it that when Monday dropped, I was like, ooh, why was I thinking like that? When I should be like, no, God's going to get this and take care of it. Well, it started to happen on Monday, and my thoughts went like, you focused in on this, so that's all you're seeing. You're not seeing the good things of it. So today was the day that I was like, okay, God, whatever you got for me, you got for me, like I always say every day. But whatever challenges that are coming, help me arise and get above it and stuff and see it a different way. And my son turned around and said to me, man, it's just been hitting hard. Like his His car started having problems. The kids were giving him trouble. Job after job were having issues with and stuff. And finally, I just looked at him and I was like, well, we can look at it the wrong way or we can look at it the good way.
Right.
And the good way came that we had new relationships that we met with some certain people that did certain things, that we were able to have conversations with them and bring more fellowship with them and speaking the word. And with that, I was like, after whatever problems, those were actually there for us to have these things and these conversations.
Right. So for me, where I've been focusing in my life that's negative is I've been really sharp with my tongue lately. Like everything's a complaint.
Oh.
And I think it's because I started to have that spirit knocking on me. Because like let me say it, and I talked about this at men's group, is that our minds are focused on one thing, right? And when you start to get into something new, you always go back to what's old. And for me in my relationship, right, there's times where I'm waiting for the bad to come, because every relationship I was in, something bad's happened. And, so I catch myself like, it doesn't matter what I say because it's just going to end up bad anyway. But I had to catch myself. And the problem is that I'm not meaning to be mean. I've just been so overwhelmed with those thoughts that, you know what I mean? Like, I think like something on Facebook triggered it. And it's cool because like, I could see now, God's like, okay, cool. You said you was past this. You said this and that. And it's for me, it's sharpening my ability to catch things. And lately, as I start to snap, I made Midget see this thing where I just go, and that lets her know that this ain't towards her. I'm just having a bad moment. It's almost like I'm being funny and I'm not, but it's letting her know that, like, you know what I mean? It's from
ready to say it about you, buddy.
yeah, but well, no, like, because they're just sometimes I just pop off and I don't, I want to think I'm keeping it real, but I'm not. I'm just being mean. And what it is, it's a mechanism to protect me, right? But it's because I keep seeking that.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like in my mind, I'm waiting for that to happen, and it's not. And I try to make it happen because I'm waiting for it, because that's normal.
And I see a lot of men that struggle with that, and I've been through that at one point in time too, because it's like it's a shield mechanism. It's like, you know what? I'm only going to expose my heart. I'm only going to expose so much at this time because I'm going to keep this closed off. But I expect the bad to come. I expect this to not work out as well as I would like it to work out. And I had this happen in relationship after relationship. So I'm expecting this to go wrong. And as long as I'm expecting it, then I can be able to handle it like I've always handled it. But the growth never comes that way. But again, like you just said, if we're seeking it and we're seeking that thing to happen each and every time, it's going to, because, okay, we all believe in God. We know that where we're at with it. But there's other people that believe that whatever you speak into the universe, it will come back to you. Whatever you're actually, what do they call it? Affirmation or whatever that goes on. They believe that if they speak it and they really believe it, they have faith in it, and they claim it, that it's going to happen and stuff. And it's no different than that when we start to seek the wrong ways, the bad things, and not looking at the good things that are happening.
And Pastor Dave, and I hope I say that correctly if he watches, but he was saying something like, and he reconfirmed to us in the group last night that every day, this is not a battle that we fight with weapons and swords. This is a battle in the spirit. And that spirit will attach itself back to you or around you, because it's got to knock you back off. Like, just because you cast it out don't mean that it's like now it's scared of you. No, it's fighting its way to get back to you, and it's going to jump over whatever rules. And by him saying that last night, it clicked for me when we got into this part, because this made a lot of sense to me, right? Because I started to see, and I was able to kind of open up and talk about that. So once I give it no power, it's not. But every once in a while, because I'm human, right? My flesh bites, and every once in a while I got to bite it back to let it know who's in charge. But as we get into this next part of section 2, you must seek the right source, not just a resource. And that's what Pastor Dave was confirming to me last night in that room, but not even like, I don't even know this dude. We never spoke. He's never heard nothing about me. But to hear that reminded me that I don't need a motivational talk. I don't need a sermon. I don't need a pastor to call me. I need to go to him, because when I start feeling this way, okay, God, what am I missing? And coming out of Easter, the message was, now what? Isn't it like, now what? He's risen. He's no longer stuck. So how am I stuck? He demonstrated that he could get up when I can get up also. So getting into this, Jeremiah 2:13, my people have committed 2 sins. They have forsaken me, the spring of living water, and have dug their own sinisters, broken sinisters that cannot hold water. And see, that's what we go back to, right? Because we think we have this handled. We think we could figure this out. We think that, the big homie got the answers, but the only big homie that has the answers is upstairs, not here in the flesh.
I think that as we start to seek certain things and stuff, don't get me wrong, without seeking God first and getting the answers direct from him, we will go, even if we hear from God, and I'm just going to say for some people, they can hear from God and hear what God has to say for them. But they need big confirmation from this person, that person,
Give me a sign.
right? And God sent this sign and that sign, and you still don't want to hear what he's telling you because you want what you want.
Right.
And finally, when you get what you want and it's not actually going according to the way that you want it to go, now you're crying to God to bail you out. But God was like, you know what? I never was in that.
Yeah. See, we struggle. We don't just struggle because we're searching. We struggle because we're searching in the wrong places. Was that song? Looking for love.
The corner of the bar.
Yeah, looking for peace and distractions, looking for validation in people, looking for healing in habits. That's not a source. That's a temporary fix.
It really is, man. It really is.
And see, and we keep it real here on CWTM. Today's culture tells men to handle it, stay busy, don't deal with it, just distract from it. But broken men trying to fix themselves with the broken system will stay broken.
I think a lot of men out there stay stingy themselves. They keep telling themselves, I'll just stay busy. I'll work hard enough, I'll get it. If I just keep on handling and keeping everything to myself, and I'll just deal with it and just deal with it. But what you fail to realize that the enemy's crafty. He'll send more distractions so you don't face that. He'll send you more things that you can be distracted by yourself, a different hobby, a different thing, or you're focused into a different way than instead of focusing in on yourselves. So let me give it a little bit of advice. And as an athlete, focusing in on the position that I played for so many years required me to sacrifice a lot. It required me to sacrifice my body. It required me to sacrifice waking up early, sacrifice time away from my children and my family. It required a lot of sacrifice in that area. And it was fine and dandy to build myself up that way. What I wasn't building myself up was a very, very stronger and closer walk with myself and knowing who I am and healing from the inside out. So it would affect everybody outside. I wasn't sacrificing enough for that because I was too busy staying busy, distracted, doing what I wanted to do, and not seeking the source to tell me which way I should.
And see, here's the spoiler word, is that staying busy and acting like it's not there, it just snowballs and snowballs. Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, you've got Sasquatch knocking on your door asking you ready to deal with this? And by that time, now it's like Goliath, right? And you ain't got no slingshot and no rock. Now you're stuck like, okay, how do I fight something that I can't control? How do I fight something I don't understand? How do I fight something that I didn't cause that's now here taking its piece of me?
And I like what you tied that into is broken men trying to fix themselves with broken systems, and they will always stay broke.
And see, here's like when I was writing this, and as I was getting into my message, the only thing that kept coming to mind was Daniel-san. Daniel-san. And I'm not trying to be funny with the accent. I'm talking about the Karate Kid.
Nice.
See, Daniel wanted to learn karate. He didn't go to his friends. He didn't go to the group that was beating him up. He didn't go to a book. He didn't go to YouTube, even if it existed. He went to Mr. Miyagi, the source. And here's the key. He didn't just seek the teacher. He submitted to the process.
Which is crazy, bro, because I know a lot of guys have watched that. He went into the process and he fought it until it actually, the master said, here now, This is what works.
And then before you get into that, see, wax on, wax off, paint the fence, sand the floor. You know, all he thought was, oh, this dude's just using me.
Fact.
And we do that to God, right? Oh, God, you told me to go serve this person. You told me if I give to the church, I'll get this. You never said that. Man told you that. But see, what he did tell you is love each other as we love him, as he loves us. And see the wax on, wax off, paint the fence, sand the floor. I could comprehend from that, because there's been times where I'm just like, I've been doing all this and I'm not profiting. Yeah. But what I don't realize, right, is not everything comes in money. Not everything's payment in full in cash. What you said until it, ha ha ha. All of a sudden, wax on, wax off, sand the floor, paint the fence worked, and then next thing you know, it's like, woo, you know what I mean? And that's a God moment, right? And so the whole time we're watching Karate Kid, none of you knew Minister Miyagi was going to minister to you at some point, but Chris is going to bring, brother Chris is going to bring it to you.
I could dive into that whole thing in a whole different manner, because Danielson learned Mr. Miyagi's style, trusted the source, right? Submitted to the process, and since he did that, his way of learning karate, his way of what he went through and the direction that he went through was not what everybody else did. He took 3 months to learn how to fight and do what he needed, and found balance, not just in karate, but in life, right? Because he went to exactly what he needed. And then he ends up becoming the Hill Valley champion. That guy's been,
I mean, he's still
fighting for years.
And what I liked about it is he didn't just, wax on, wax off. Now he's like the champion of the world. He still had to put work in.
He did.
And he still got worked.
That's right.
And that to the end of the movie, it wasn't like he just walked in and people were scared of him. They were still attacking him, but see, he trusts the process. That's right. He was obedient to the source, not the resource, but the source. And see, and as we break this down with God, is God's asking us to be obedient. If he says, be still, be still. He's telling you to get up and move, no matter what that tie is, right? A lot of us say, oh, we're sold out, we're sold out. And then God says, move. And you're like, nah, fear. Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden, everything that you're trying to break off you is what you're holding on to. But see, then at the end, right, he wanted to learn, and he had to break himself, and he had to be uncomfortable. And then he found out, right, the source turned out to be his good teacher. And that's all God is. That's what Jesus came down to be, is a rabbi, right?
And what I like behind that whole story is that the same thing that God starts to bless you, and you start walking in assignment and purpose. All the things that you prayed for that you're not supposed to have, God will bless you abundantly, and it will happen quick and fast. So what you think that that's just going to struggle for you to take 10 years to get, God can give it to you in a year.
Now, see, and we gotta be respectful to when that no is not no, it's delay. Right. Delay is setup, because maybe like, okay, so like, what if what he's going to give you, he gave to you now, but you're not obedient to the work? Yeah, like I manage it. Yeah, like I can't go to the gym, right? And all of a sudden I'm doing weightlifting curls, or my buddy that's a weightlifter, I can't go do his workout. But in like 6 or 8 months, as I open my mind to this process, I can start to build that. And then when it's the right time, I can step into that arena with them dudes and still be equal. But see that, like, this just demonstrates how everybody's on a different walk, because you can't come fresh off the street and be like the janitor deadlifting dumbbells that weightlifters are struggling to just barely pick up for a second. You got to understand that if you want healing, you got to seek the healer. If you want direction, you got to seek the shepherd. If you want strength, you have to seek the source. That's right. Not the resource and not a source, but the source.
Yeah, go to God.
No substitutes. No BS, and you got to put in the work. You got to.
I like what you said. This still nails back to where we were going, right? Everybody's going to have a different journey. It's just going to happen. But as long as you keep on seeking the source, keep on being obedient to the source, keep on listening for what the shepherd is doing and where he's leading you, you will not be able to mismanage the assignment that he has for you as long as you do that. It's when we decide, like, you know what? I'm not going to seek his will. I'm going to seek my own will.
Yeah, and that will's never going to work, because that's not the good of the situation.
What about the other ones? I'm going to seek his will for 5 years until I get what I want. Then all of a sudden, I'm going to do what I want.
Well, see, and that's those people that say God is good when the check's there, and God's not good when it's not.
God is good all the time.
Yeah, God's not a banker.
Ah.
So if you're putting God in a checkbook, you're going to have your feelings hurt all the time because that's not God. That's what you want it to be. That's what you're seeking. And sometimes you got to ask those serious questions and say, God, what is this? What's next? What's now?
I agree. And I'll tie this into what we were talking about seeking God. Isaiah 55:6. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call to him while he is near. 2 Chronicles 15:2. The Lord is with you when you are with him. If you seek him, he will be found by you. And those are the things that the Lord says, seek and you will find, knock and it will be open unto you. We quote that all the time. We say that all the time.
But do we believe
The
it?
fact that's the whole thing. We are so busy seeking and knocking for what we want, how we want it.
And
We better show up the way I want it, or it ain't God's way.
when you seek him, you will find him. And we talked about this, right? Do we trust God fully with our total heart? And I know the answer is always going to be probably not, but there is times when you have to. And when you start having those times, right, that little breakthrough of, okay, God, I don't know what to do. And then what happens, right, is it gives you a glimpse of what's going to happen. And when he gives you that glimpse, all of a sudden now everything your spouse is doing wrong, you don't see that, right? You start to see, you know what, that person's really putting in work. That dude's trying his hardest. That chick's coming home, and even though you're a punk, she's still caring about you. She's still loving you.
Yeah, she's still cooking that food, making those fresh tortillas or whatever. But here's the truth that most men miss. This is really, I'll get down to the core. You don't accidentally grow spiritually. You intentionally seek God and grow spiritually. You didn't accidentally become a carpenter. You didn't accidentally become a bus driver. You didn't accidentally become an athlete. You intentionally sought after it. You intentionally put the work into it. And you got coaches that helped you get where you needed to be, or a journeyman that got you where you needed to be, or somebody that was above you that taught you all those things. Why are we not seeking?
Because see, God's not hiding from us. He's waiting to be sought.
Mhm.
Here's the truth is most men miss is like what you said. You don't accidentally grow spiritually. You intentionally seek. And what the problem is like what you're saying is that we can't step into the arena without a game plan. You can't, like, God's not waiting for you to say, oh, show me your hand. He'll pick you up, but he's not coming to like, hey, I'm right here. What he's going to say is, okay, if you're not ready, I'll be back. And it's not because he's denying you or saying, be gone from me. But what he's saying is until you want him, he's not making himself readily available. He's right there for you. He's like this, but you go right past him. And then he don't be like, because what happens if our kids do that to us? All of a sudden, oh, we mad. We don't want to pay child support no more. We don't go pick them up for the weekend. We ain't taking them to Disneyland. Whoopty, whoopty, whoop. But what about when God's like that and we walk right past him? Okay, so now the check's not in the mail. The car's not going to start. The job that you're seeking is not going to come because, like, you can't expect God to bless you if you're not being obedient.
Yeah.
And you got to be intentional in alignment and on assignment for this all work. You can't go to the casino with no money and expect to win the jackpot.
See, and we can keep on nailing that, but men today are busy but empty. You empty inside. You really know it. You just stay busy to keep you distracted, and that's the enemy's ploy for you. You'll get you distracted through politics, entertainment, sports, women. You're connected but isolated. You're strong outwardly, but you are tired inwardly. Like, if you really, really got down to it, could you be honest and complete with yourself, like on 4 major pillars? Like, where you at spiritually? Where you at mentally? Where you at physically? And where you at emotionally? Where you at? Gauge yourself. Then you can tell you how tired you really are inwardly.
And see, like when you say connected but isolated, I say connected but distracted because you can't have your eyes on the prize and be looking at another gift. I mean, you can't. You gotta be locked in. You gotta understand. Okay, sacrifice takes discipline. Like, you can never go to the gym and your legs don't hurt after leg day. Because if they did, you didn't do leg day. But here's the thing:
there's no pain coming with it.
And just like we see in today's world, nothing's new. Ain't nothing new. Hey, what's cracking? Ain't nothing new. What do you mean ain't nothing new? You woke up again. You had a chance to rest your mind. Like you didn't go to sleep and just sit there in the bed like this because you'd be a mess the next day. You got rest. God gave you rest. He said, Close your eyes. I'll battle for you while you're sleeping. But we don't respect that. We don't appreciate that. We get back up and, oh, here she is again.
It's the mundane and it's the norm, and you get so comfortable with it that you fail to appreciate the things that you have that are comfortable.
And see, I like to always think about, okay, so we tie a lot of this into current day, but let's go back in the day. Men in the Bible that dealt with pressure was David, failure with Peter, fear with Elijah, temptation with Samson. The difference, those who sought God found faith or found strength. And see, like that's the main thing, right? Is God's not asking you to all of a sudden turn in your khakis and your Nikes and get penny loafers and front row in church. He's just asking you to dedicate some time to him.
Yeah, it's a daily pursuit. It's a consistency and a willingness to do the work, to get closer to him and change within yourself. But that becomes start of where you have to change your mind on things, because it can't be thinking that I'm seeking God by just going to church and you ain't done nothing but read your Bible or even get him a prayer. That's not really seeking God. That's not really seeking the source.
And not only just that part, but who have you served? You all of a sudden you want everyone to serve you, but whose feet have you washed? Who have you shown love to? All the love that you say the earth don't give, who have you given to?
Nice. And we always talk about that scripture, give and it will be given unto you, pressed down, flowing over. Well, are you giving love? Are you giving grace? Are you giving mercy? Are you giving, those type of sacrifices? Are you giving, forgiveness? Are you giving those things so that you can receive those? And you're right, Brother Chris, when you talked about like, hey, what are you really doing? Daniel, he trained every day praying as hard as he could, no matter what. He did it consistently and trained spiritually. That's through prayer, fasting, reading the word, getting closer to God. But he also, when those things were abundantly to him and he had the source in him, and all the fruits started to come out. Correct. And that's really what it comes down to. By their fruit, so shall you know them.
So you can't find God casually. You find him intentionally. You can't just, you can have an experience.
You can have an encounter with him,
but you're not going to find him just like casually walking into the liquor store. You're going to be convicted. And that's my opinion of finding him. Because when he's telling you that you shouldn't do this and you still will do it, then it's like, okay, now you can't be mad at God because now you got to deal with the just like leg day. You can't be mad your legs hurt if you went in.
Oh, man.
And I'm cool with it, but it's talking to me. But here, let's bring it all together, right? If you seek negativity, you'll find it. If you seek the wrong source, you'll stay empty. But if you seek God, you'll find life. And here's this week, just, I want you to do this, if you can. Pay attention to what you're looking for. Like, be intentional on what you're seeking. If you're seeking a job, then why don't you do some research? Like break it down. Is your resume right? Have you done some research? Have you talked to somebody in that field? You can't just be like, I want to be an airplane pilot and never gone to airplane school. I want to go be an airplane mechanic and you can't even work on your car. I mean, there's
steps to this. And here's one of the biggest things I hear from people. Well, if it's God's will, it would just happen.
Well, let me pray on it.
Okay, yeah. If it's God's will, it'll just happen. And you pray on it. And God's like, well, I'm willing for you to move some action here. I'm willing for you to read this book. I'm willing for you to go get some advice from this person.
Right.
But, it's just going to happen. And it was his will. And if it's not, it's not really. There's not one point that I have seen that Bible with a lot of the Bible heroes and stuff that didn't put forth action.
Right. And faith without action is dead.
It's dead.
I mean,
David went down to the stream, picked out 5 smooth stones. Okay. He put the action to his faith.
And then check where you're going for your answers. If you're going to Uncle Willie, and then you figure out how you can.
Uncle Willie again.
If you keep going to Uncle Willie and then you figure out you ain't got no game, why did you go to Uncle Willie?
That's right.
And to make a decision to seek God daily. Everybody talks this whole talk about, right? Like, well, I ain't giving the church no money. Well, what about 10% of your time? 10% of your time. What's 10% of 24 hours? Like, and I'm not sitting there saying, but break out 6 Bibles and go into pick up your phone, the phone you're scrolling TikTok. Matter of fact, put us on your TikTok so you can get some of these words too. But like going to the right sources, if you're going to scroll on your phone, scroll Bible app. If you're going to listen to something, listen to a sermon. And you don't have to just listen to a random sermon. You could pick something that's matching your problem that you're having, and God's going to speak to you through a message. But you got to seek it. You can't just wait. I mean, like, you can't be like me and just turn on your YouTube and all of a sudden it's all TD Jakes all the way down. And I didn't even understand, but now I do, because I was seeking God and I wasn't finding him in the right
Well,
place.
listen to what you just said, man. You know, and the scripture says, you know, first seek ye the kingdom, you know, and all things will be added unto you. And that's even wisdom and knowledge with that. And I know some of you guys are sitting out there like, I can only take so much Christian music. I can only take so much sermons. I can only take so much of that and stuff. What do you think it's going to be like in the kingdom? Like, seriously, what do you really think it's going to be like in the kingdom? I mean, do you think that there's going to be all the secular stuff that's going on in the kingdom? Like, you're going to hear Keith Sweat singing up all this doomy songs and all that stuff up there. And let's get real. Are you really think you're going to hear all that? So what we get comfortable in, you might want to think about how comfortable you're going to be in the kingdom if you make it with that. You know, what's going to be different. And the reason why I bring that up is because I talked to a friend this week that went to a concert. They actually went to a Keith Sweat concert. And in their spirituality, they went there and they were like, I don't know what they were thinking or what they were going to seek to find there. But they found themselves and they were like, I felt so out of place. I was so uncomfortable. I didn't even want to be there. I felt like I wanted to hurry up and leave, even though I paid for this ticket and stuff. And I was like, well, what did you think? You think being around that particular type of spirit and those things going on, that you were going to be comfortable knowing that you were in the presence of God? Like, that was going to be a comfortable place? And if we ever find ourselves in places like that and we're comfortable, we might really ask the source.
And sometimes like for me, right, I DJ some stuff, right? And there's times where I'm like, oh God, what am I doing? But I do it because for me, it's reminding me that I don't feel comfortable there no more. Just because someone else likes it, that's fine, because it's a DJ show and I'm usually spinning music that fits into a category of what we're going for. But to go back to the whole thing of the conviction, right? And when you feel that, it's like, okay, cool. I am locked in. And you know, like, there ain't nothing wrong with little Keith Sweat. You know what I mean? Most of your kids are born on that anyway. But what I'm saying is when you're idolizing it, like for me, I like the memories, right? I like where that music takes me. I like to think back of where I was at.
No, I get you, man. Freestyle does that for me. And I'm talking about not rap freestyle. I'm talking about the 80s freestyle coming out of Miami and stuff. It takes me back to a place where I remember that dreams were out there in the distance. There was a freedom that I had with it. And it reminds me like everything was open to receive at that point in time, that you had a part of your life that you were looking forward to moving forward. Not that all of it's come true, but it brings that memory. And I agree with you, you know, what it doesn't do is let those music or those feelings or those emotions control where I'm at now.
Yeah, definitely. So that's it, man. That's episode 45, man. We got a little hiccup because we're doing some studio renovation. We're kind of deadlocked on some technology bumps that we got on the road. But, we're pushing through. We're learning how to make this work and using this new technology. So, you know, forgive us for the episode missed. It's not really an episode missed. We're just delayed a little bit. But hey, it happens, right? Because a two-man band can only beat the drums.
That's okay, man. You know, I kind of felt a little I guess, guilty to a certain degree. And then, you know, as I got into prayer, I started asking God about it. He was like, look at all the other things that I've got you going on and doing this stuff. So now jump back onto what we needed to do. So fellas, you know, again, you can reach us and hit the subscribe, the like, you know, share this particular video with whoever you can share it with. At the same token, you know, if you're struggling with any of these things, please reach us, you know, hit us up.
And if for some reason we just can't, we got 44 other episodes out there on YouTube that you can go back and rewatch. There's some good ones way back at the beginning. There's some heat in the middle, and, you know, we're going to continue to bring some fire towards the end. But, you know, what we're saying is that, you know, if this has any value to you, share it out with a friend, like it, comment, share, subscribe. You know, hey, big ups to everyone that just couldn't comprehend my illustration with the hard drive that we put out. But it's cool, man. I appreciate the contact. You know, that's letting me know that you guys heard what we were saying. And I like to use a lot of illustrations because sometimes it takes an illustration to get what we're talking. The Bible's full of illustrations. So if we act like we don't need them, then I don't think Jesus would. But
and listen, man, I know that I get hit all the time, and I hear a lot of it from a lot of guys out there. You're like, talk more about relationships here and stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I really don't want to talk so much about a male-female relationship. My focus is to really talk about your relationship with the source. What's your relationship along with God? Because once it's there and that's steady and that's locked in, the rest of it just comes in place where it needs to be.
Because you got to do the self check before you worry about the check with somebody else. Because if we're going to talk about being in a toxic relationship, you don't want to hear that either. So, but that's it. That's episode 45, man. We thank you guys for tuning in. You know, it's always a pleasure to get out here and just, you know, I like these conversations anyway. So for me, this is cool. We appreciate you guys signing in. You know, I think we're up to 250 something on the YouTube.
That's not including the people those are just the subscribers. And I see thousands of other things and stuff, but what I definitely get is the engagement, and the changing of lives. Like you said, we always pray. We didn't pray this time, but it's for the one. If we just got the one out there that gets that message sits really with them, and it's able to let them look in themselves and change. I can care less about everything else of the numbers. I'd rather see that one person change. And if it plants a seed in you, awesome. That's even better.
So, you know, if you say to make sure at the end here to tell a friend.
Tell a friend.
We did it again. So until next time. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank everybody for coming in and listening to this podcast. And I just want to give an ups to everybody that tunes in, hits like and subscribe. And we look forward to more content like this.
It was a great conversation. We'll see you on the next one.
What you seek, had to check my soul. I was busy, I was active, I was chasing the grind, but deep down I was empty, I was wasting my time. Same habits, same cycles, just a different day. Talking faith, but my life